I've now got Charlie's head in here. Well, Charlie's head's over there. But this is Charlie's head. If you watched the last video, that was me casting his head front and back in alginate. I've got the two halves here. I've run plaster bandage around the edge to join the two together, and I'm now about to fill his head with plaster. I'm using, let me show you, okay, this is what I'm using, which is a dental plaster of Paris, which is really good for fine detail, because I'm hoping to get good fine detail. And I've got a bucket of water, and what I've done is I've looked in there, and with Charlie and his dad, Graham's advice, we've looked and we've worked out, we reckon it's about five of those. So what I've done is I've put 2.5 of those in there, and now I'm going to add the plaster. When you're adding plaster, if you're being really health and safety conscious, you should be wearing a mask. But I'm not, because it actually stops me talking to you, but usually I wear a mask. And you sprinkle it in like this, from quite a good height. It stops it clumping together too much. And you just keep doing that, and what happens is gradually as you're working, the plaster is settling on the bottom and building up into small islands. And when you can see the islands sticking out the top, that's the time to mix it. And you can't, once you've mixed it, you can't add any more in, otherwise it gets lumpy. So, you know what I was saying about suck it and see, that you really have to do it and sort of do it by eye. It works out roughly about the same amount of plaster to water. Some people weigh it, but this is what I was taught. I was taught this by Edward Allington, who was my tutor at college, and he taught, and I remember him teaching this to Rachel Whiteread, who went on to win the Turner Prize. She was this sculptor, did you ever see her, who cast a house? Oh. Up in London. She actually, yeah, in concrete, and then they took the walls off. Yeah.
Wow.
But she was actually, when I was doing my degree in sculpture, she was doing a degree in painting. But she came down to the sculpture, whoops, that's a bit lumpy. She came down to the sculpture department to learn about casting stuff, because she actually made these fab paintings that had cast metal objects on them. And I remember being there the first day she was taught how to mix plaster. She went on to greater things. Yeah, I do Charlie's head, she does houses.
You also do the Olympians, so.
I do Olympians, that's true. Yeah, I've done some really cool people.
And Michael Patillo.
No, I did see that. That was quite strange, actually.
Have you seen one Michael Patillo head painted yet?
Oh no, I haven't.
I have to show you. He's yeah. Sorry, it's really boring. Some like.
Who else might you be doing? Or are you not allowed to mention it?
I don't know. I've got a couple of things in the pipeline, but you never actually know until someone's sat there with the plaster on their head whether they're actually going to go. Actually, I really don't fancy it. It's like last year I was supposed to have been casting for Sir Cliff Richard.
Oh yeah.
Which would have been brilliant. I think that would have been just such a brilliant thing to do. But unfortunately he got offered the Queen's Jubilee. How dare he rather do that? Because he lives abroad, and he only comes back to the UK for a couple of weeks a year. And during that time he has to get in so many things. So if you actually manage to get hold of him, you're really honoured. And unfortunately for me, he was, I mean, great for him, but unfortunately for me, he was offered the Queen's Jubilee. So I was blown out for the Queen. Oh, tough. But that would have been really interesting. I'd like to have met him. The only trouble is he's quite a hairy guy, so we would have had to have wrapped him in cling film or... No, really.
So actually, I'm going to go for the Queen's Jubilee.
Let's not go there. No. But yeah, because you have Chris Akabusi shaved, but you don't have to shave. If you're having a torso done, well, you would. You're hairy. You'd need, yeah. But you have a choice of shaving yourself, or I help you, or Sorry.
You either shave yourself, or I will help you shave.
Well, the thing is, actually, some people have got slightly hairy backs, so they can't always reach everywhere.
Do you do a cut first razor really quickly though?
No, I don't do cut razor, I just do big razors. Yeah, Chris had to shave, but it can, if you, thing is, if you actually shave just before you're casting, it smarts. So
yeah,
it's better to do it if you can the day before.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go, that's the first one of those. Try not to let it go in lumps.
How long does this take to go off then? Is it slower, is it, than the bandage?
Oh god, yeah, a lot slower.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to get a few islands, so that's good. Almost there, I think. If you look, Charlie, here,
Right.
have a look in. When you do this, can you see it sort of like taking a while to settle, and there are sort of few areas where it's beginning to build up?
Yeah.
Do you want to have a look, actually? Yeah? It's sort of got to the point where
And
now
then
it's yeah. It means that there's so much underneath the surface that those areas there have actually reached the top of the building.
Oh, I see. Oh,
and that's what I mean by islands. When you've got islands appearing in it, that means that's about it, because it's this.
Well, then you whisk
and then,
it or something.
No, you put your hand in.
Right.
You do it with your hand, and you sort of do that with your hand. Don't stand too close. You've got nice clothes on, don't stand too close. Okay, and you do that, and you can actually feel with your hands, and that's actually quite smooth. If you feel lumps in there, you go like that.
Oh, so that's what gets such detail, because it is liquid when it goes.
Yeah. So like that.
It is very liquid, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. And it's it's sort of like slightly creamy like that. Okay. I'm just going to clean off that hand. Could I have some like kitchen roll there? When you're working with plaster, don't wash your hands in the sink.
And always have glamorous assistants.
Right,
obviously.
Always have glamorous assistants, yeah. But don't, because if you wash plaster down the sink, you can have a really interesting time.
It sets in the feed trap.
Yeah, I had one of the schools I taught in, I'd said this to my students, don't stick it down the sink, and this guy decided that actually he knew better, and he was going to wash out a plaster bucket with quite a lot of plaster down the sink when he finished, and his parents had to pay for the replacement of the plumbing under the sink.
So where do you wash it then?
Well, what I do is I leave it to settle, and then I just whack the thing till it comes off, breaks off, and then I just clean it out. Or I wipe it all out with kitchen roll beforehand, and then wash it when there's none left. Just hope we've got enough. If there's not enough,
This is where our estimation comes
we'll
into
see.
play.
Interesting to see. Oh, I think we've underestimated.
No.
No. Okay, well it's all right.
There's in there. Yeah.
There's still some of that.
Can you do it in 2 halves?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not such a problem. It's just we would really need to fit it to the chin.
Yeah. For an unspecified reason.
Well, just because most heads look really stupid without it.
Oh yeah, sorry, I was just getting paranoid.
Regardless of anything else. Oh, chinless wonder. Okay. Now, when you put the plaster in, there's usually quite a lot of air bubbles that have caught onto the surface of the interior surface of the mould. So what you do, vibrate.
Well,
thank you so much for that.
When you do concrete, you can buy a concrete vibrator.
Oh, okay.
Which you just put in the concrete.
Well saved.
It vibrates it to get rid of the
Okay,
air
well, you just tap the sides like that. And what happens is that I don't know if they can see or not, the air bubbles are lifting to the surface. You have to be very careful about how solid your mould is though, because if you do this and it's not really solid, then that's when it splits apart. Right, okay.
I'll take you anywhere, Dad.
Be careful.
We need a vibrator. Types of vibrators.
Really, just shut up, because
That way.
I'm going to stick it on YouTube if you're outrageous. Your father. Honestly, You'll grow up.
I think it's quite funny. He meant it in the best possible.
I know. But it's true. I know. The thing is that being a builder, you would have that.
Yeah.
So what are they like? Are they like sort of plates that you stick the thing on in it, or do they attach on the outside, or?
I don't know. I've never used a concrete vibrator. Yeah. I imagine it's something that just shakes it up. But I think tapping is fine. There's people just like expensive tools, don't they?
Well, I imagine if you're mixing concrete, it's a slightly different matter to mixing plaster, because this is tiny compared to some stuff you do.
So you can just fill the second half, and it doesn't. Do you have to wait for that to set?
Wet plaster will stick to wet plaster, but wet plaster doesn't stick to dry plaster.
Right. Okay.
It shears
off.
So,
but I thought you said you couldn't add it afterwards. You said you can't add more.
Oh no, but you can add another new set. But what I'm saying is, when you're mixing it up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when you're mixing it up and you've got it to the point where you've got the right amount and you've mixed it.
Oh, okay.
If you add more stuff in, then it goes very clumpy.
Oh right, sorry.
So no, you can add more on like this, as long as you do it fairly quickly and it's all wet, then it'll be fine. Not a problem.
So how long does this take to set, sorry?
I can't remember on this Plaster.
You've got enough time for it. You can move that now and it wouldn't mess it up.
It doesn't say. Normally I'd leave this for a couple of hours before I think about taking it out, but the best thing is to leave it overnight, because it's like the plaster you use when you're building, that it gets a lot stronger, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it heats up and it...
yeah, and it heats it same. This heats up as it goes off.
Right. Well, I mean, if you were to move the angle of the head, it wouldn't matter if it poured about a bit. Or...
Oh, no. What will happen is that this will set so that it's in its position, you know, within not that long, sort of like 15-20 minutes, but it will be soft. It'll be too soft to actually take apart for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, because this one's such a big thing. When I'm making the hands, you can do it within sort of 10 minutes. But because there's so much plaster here...
From outfit, you're saying I had a big head.
No, you've got a normal size head. Well, actually. I mean, now you mention it.
Yeah, I was thinking... Oh, that's it. Oh.
Yeah, fill to the chin. Cool. Just check. And you want to tip it slightly more that way. So that's up to your chin. Is that as far as we needed it?
Right.
Yeah, I'll just put a little bit more in.
Does make you realise how obtrusive my Adam's apple is. It just sticks right.
It's great, but you're a boy. Yeah. Otherwise it'd be hard to tell.
I thought it was my chin for a bit. I have 3 chins.
Wait till you're older, mate. Get no choice on them now. Okay.
Another thing we normally do with concrete is we just tap it down, but it's always thicker than this even.
Yeah. Well, this is nice because you can pour it in when it's quite liquid, which means it will go into things, but it will trap, even if you do this, it will trap air bubbles around on the surface, but you can mend them if you want them to be perfect. You know, if you need it to be perfect, whatever, you can mend them.
How would you mend them?
Say you've got an air bubble.
And it's on
so
the
you've got
surface,
a hole, so you've got a dip on the surface. It doesn't matter if it's on the surface, you don't see it.
Yeah.
You get, it's really weird, you get a brush and you get some water in a little cup and you get plaster in a little cup. You use your brush and you take a dab of water and you fill up the hole with water with a brush.
Right.
And then you take some plaster and just dip it in. And you
Okay.
just pop it in and it sort of melts into the water until it fills the space. Yeah, it's really nice, quite a therapeutic thing to do. Right, I'm going to leave it there. It's going to take a while to dry and then I'll undo it and I'll show you. Okay, bye-bye.